Hi. When cricket disappoints you, you read. So I was just watching Qualifier 1 of IPL and it's just disappointing. I was supporting GT. It's very disappointing. I mean, they're supposed to be good bowling side. Anyways, here we are with chapter 46. Holly was running late as she rushed around her bedroom trying to get ready for the ball. She had spent the last 2 hours applying her makeup, crying and smudging it, and then reapplying it. She rolled the mascara brush over her eyelashes for the fourth time, praying the tear reservoir had run dry for the night. An unlikely prospect, but a girl could always hope. Cinderella, your prince has arrived, Sharon yelled upstairs to her. Holly's heart raced. She needed more time. She needed to sit down and rethink the idea of going to the ball all over again, as she had completely forgotten her reasons for going. Now she was faced with only the negative reasons not to go. She didn't want to go at all. She would spend all night crying. She would be stuck at a table full of so called friends who hadn't talked to her since Jerry had died. She felt like shit. She looked like shit, and Jerry wouldn't be there. Reasons to go. She had an overwhelming feeling that she needed to go, and most importantly, an overriding reason preventing her from backing out. She breathed down slowly, trying to prevent a whole new batch of tears from appearing. Holy, be strong, you can do this. She whispered at her reflection in the mirror. You need to do this. It will help you, it will make you stronger. She repeated this over and over again until a creak at the door made her jump. Sorry, Sharon apologized, appearing from round the table. Oh, Holly, you look fabulous, she said excitedly. I look like shit, Holly grumbled. Oh, stop saying that, Sharon said angrily. I look like a blimp. And do you hear me complaining? Except the fact that you're a babe. She smiled at her in the mirror. You'll be fine. I just want to stay home tonight, Sharon. I have to open Jerry's last message. Oh, it's his last message. Polly couldn't believe the time had come to open the last one. After tomorrow, there would be no more kind words from Jerry, and she still felt like she needed him. In all her excitement back in April, she couldn't wait for the months to pass so that she could rip the envelopes open and read his words. But she had wished the months away all too quickly, and now it was nearly the end. She wanted to stay in the night and savor their last special moment. I know, Sharon said, understanding. I feel like, endings are beautiful. See, we started this book like 2 years ago, and now it's just like near the end. So I feel like really happy. But yeah, of course, it can be daunting too, because, now what? I do have now what, but, uh, like, still. But yeah, endings can be exciting as well. Endings are beautiful. Okay, I know, Sharon said, understanding, but that can wait for a few hours, can't it? Polly was just about to say no when John shouted up the stairs, Come on, girls, the taxi's waiting. We have to collect Tom and Denise. Before Holly followed Sharon downstairs, she slid open the drawer of a dressing table and took out the November letter from Jerry that she had opened weeks ago. She needed his words of encouragement to help her now. She ran her fingers over the ink and pictured him writing it. She imagined the face she made when he wrote, which she always used to tease him about. He used to have a look of pure concentration, and his tongue licked his lips as he moved the pen. She loved that face. She missed that face. She slid the card from the envelope. She needed strength for this letter, and she knew she would find it. Every day she read, Cinderella must go to the ball this month, and she will look glamorous and beautiful, and have the time of her life, just like always. But no white dresses this year. P.S. I love you. The day after Holly had rode with Denise over whether to go to the ball or not, Holly opened her November letter. Despite pep talks from Chris and Daniel, she had tortured herself all day over what her decision could be. She needed She needn't have worried, as Jerry had chosen for her, and his words reinforced the idea that she should go to the ball. This was her new task. She took a deep breath and followed Sharon downstairs. How? Daniel said, his mouth dropping open. You look fabulous, Holly. I look like. Holly started to grumble and Sharon shot her a look. But thanks. She quickly added. John Paul had helped her choose a simple black halter neck dress with a split to the thigh up the middle. No white dresses this year. They so she chose complete opposite. Chose the complete opposite. My English is shit. Mistakes. They all piled into the taxi as they approached each set of traffic lights. Holly prayed that they would turn red to delay the moment they arrived. No such luck. For once, the traffic on the streets of Dublin was non existent, and they made it into the hotel in record time. Despite her prayers, a mudslide didn't cascade down the Dublin mountains, and no volcano erupted. Hell refused to freeze over too. They stepped up to the table just inside the door of the function room, and Holly looked at the ground as she felt all eyes in her direction, from the women eager to see how the newcomers were dressed. When they were satisfied that they were still the most beautiful people there, they looked away and continued their conversations. The woman sitting behind the desk smiled as they approached her. Hello, Sharon. Hello, John. Hi, Denise. Oh gosh. Her face might actually have gone whiter under her streaky fake tanned face, but Holly couldn't be sure. Oh, hello, Holly. It's so good of you to come, considering. She trailed off and quickly flicked through the guest list to tick off their names. Let's go to the bar, Denise said, linking Holly's arm and dragging her away. As they walked across the room, a woman Holly hadn't spoken to for months approached her. Holly, I was okay. This is the right time to do the condolences and everything. Holly, I was so sorry to hear about Jerry. He was a lovely man. Thank you, Holly smiled and was led away again by Denise. They finally reached the bar. Hi there, Holly, a familiar voice behind her said. Oh, hello, Patrick, she said, turning to face the large businessman who sponsored the charity. He was tall and overweight, with a bright red face. Probably due to I don't get tall and overweight. Like how can you be tall and overweight? I have never once like seen a person who's tall and is overweight. Maybe overweight, but they don't look overweight. He was okay. With a bright red face, probably due to the stress of running one of Ireland's most successful businesses. Businesses are successful. No, successful businesses are stressful. Yes, they are. This is so stressful. That the fact that he drank that and the fact that he drank too much. He looked like he was choking with the tightness of his bow tie, and he pulled at it, looking uncomfortable. The buttons on his tuxedo looked as if they were about to pop at any moment. Holly didn't know him very well. He was just one of the people she knew from being at the ball every year. You're looking as lovely as always. He gave her a kiss on the cheek. Can I get you a drink? He asked, holding his hand up to attract the barman's attention. Oh, no, thanks, she smiled. Oh, let me, he said, taking his bulging wallet out of his pocket. Feel, what will you have? Holly gave in. A white wine, then, please, if you insist. She smiled. I might as well get a drink for that miserable husband of yours. He laughed. What's he having? He searched the room for Jerry. Oh, he's not here, Patrick, Cody said, feeling uncomfortable. Why not? The dry shit? That's 2 years now he's gone missing. What's he up to? Paul asked loudly at the same time mouthing his order to the barman. He passed away early this year, Patrick, Foley said gently, hoping not to embarrass him. Oh, Patrick reddened even more and cleared his throat nervously. He stared down at the bar. I'm very sorry to hear that. He stuttered and looked away. He pulled at his bow tie again. Thank you, Holly said, counting the seconds in her head till he made an excuse to leave the conversation. He escaped after 3 seconds, mumbling that he had to bring his wife her drink. Holly was left standing at the bar alone, as Denise had already made her way back to the group with their drinks. She picked up her glass of wine and headed over. Hi, Holly. She turned to see who had called her name. Oh, hello, Jennifer. She was faced with another woman who she knew only from attending the ball. She was dressed in an over the top ball gown, dripping in expensive jewelry, and she held a glass of champagne between the thumb and forefinger of her gloved hand. Her blonde hair was almost white, and her skin dark and leathery as a result of too much sun. How are you? You look fab. The dress is fab. She sipped on her champagne and looked wholly up and down. I'm fine, thank you. You? I'm just fab, thanks. Jerry not with you tonight? She looked around the room for him. No, he passed away in February, Holly repeated gently. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. She placed a glass of champagne down on the table next to them, and her hands flew to her face, her forehead creasing with worry. I had no idea. How are you keeping? You poor love. She reached out and placed her hand on Holly's arm. I'm fine, thank you, Holly repeated, smiling to keep the atmosphere light. Oh, you poor thing. Jennifer's voice was hushed and looked at her pityingly. You must be devastated. Well, yes, it is hard, but I'm dealing with it. Trying to be positive, you know. She perked up. Gosh, I don't know how you can be. That's awful news. Her eyes continued to bore into Holly. She seemed to look at her differently now. Holly nodded along and wished this woman would stop telling her what she already knew. And was he ill? She probed. Yes, he had a brain tumor. Oh dear, that's awful. And he was so young. Every word she emphasized became a high pitched screech. Yes, he was. But we had a happy life together, Jennifer, Holly said, trying to be as cheery as she could. Yes, you did, but it's such a shame it wasn't a longer life. That's devastating for you. Absolutely awful and so unfair. You must feel miserable. And how on earth did you come here tonight with all these couples around? She looked around at all the couples as though there was suddenly a bad smell in the air. Well, you just have to learn to move on. Polly smiled. Of course you do. But it must be so difficult. Oh, how awful. She held her gloved hands up to her face, looking appalled. Polly smiled and spoke through her gritted teeth. Yes, it is difficult, but like I said, just you just have to stay positive and move on. Anyway, speaking of moving on, I'd better go and join my friends, she added politely and dashed off. You all right? Daniel asked as she appeared beside him. Yes, I'm fine, thank you. Polly repeated for the 10th time that night. She glanced over at Jennifer, who was in a huddle with her female friends, talking and staring over at her and Daniel. I have arrived, a loud voice announced at the door. Polly turned around to see the legendary party animal, Jamie, standing at the door with his arms held high in the air. I am one and once again dressed in my penguin suit and ready to party. He did a little dance before joining the group, attracting stares from around the room. Just what he wanted. He made his way around the circle, greeting the men with a handshake and kiss on the cheek for the women, sometimes hilariously switching the gesture. He paused when he got to Holly and glanced back and forth from Holly to Daniel a couple of times. He shook Daniel's hand swiftly, pecked Holly on the cheek, quickly as though she was diseased, and rushed off. Holly tried to swallow the lump in her throat angrily. That had been very rude. His wife Helen smiled timidly over at Holly from across the table of their circle, but didn't come over. Holly wasn't surprised. It had obviously been too difficult for them to drive 10 minutes down the road to visit Holly after Jerry died, so she would hardly expect Helen to take 10 steps forward to say hello. She ignored them and turned to talk to her real friends, the people who had supported her for the past year. Holly was laughing at one of Sharon's stories when she felt a light tapping on her shoulder. She turned round mid laughter to face a very sad looking Helen. Hi, Helen, she said happily. How are you? Helen said quietly, touching Holly gently on the arm. Oh, I'm fine, Holly nodded. You should listen to this story. It's very funny. She smiled and continued to listen to Sharon. Helen left her hand on Holly's arm and eventually tapped her again after a few seconds. I mean, how are you since Jerry? Holly gave up listening to Sharon. Since Jerry died, you mean? Holly understood that people sometimes felt awkward about these situations. Holly often did too. But she felt that if someone had brought the subject up themselves, they could at least be adult enough to carry the conversation through properly. Helen appeared to wince at Holly's question. Well, yes, but I didn't want to say. It's okay, Helen. I have accepted that. That's what happened. Have you? Of course I have, Holly frowned. It's just that I haven't seen you for a very long time, so I was beginning to get worried. Holly laughed. Helen, I still live around the corner from you in the same house as before. My house number is still the same, and as is my mobile number. If you were ever that worried about me, I was never that difficult for you to find. That's such a great remark. Oh, yes, but I didn't want to intrude. She trailed off. Friends don't intrude, Helen, Holly said politely, but hoped she had got her message across. Helen blushed slightly, and Polly turned away to talk to Sharon. Keep me a seat beside you, will you? I just need to run to the ladies again, Sharon asked, doing a little dance on the spot. Again, Dennis blurted out. You were just there 5 minutes ago. Yes, well, this tends to happen when you have a 7-month-old baby pushing down on your bladder, she explained, before waddling off to the toilet. It's not actually 7 months old, though, is it? Denise said, scrunching her face up. Technically, it's minus 2 months, because otherwise that would mean that the baby would be 9 months old when he was born. And then they would be celebrating his first birthday only 3 months after only 3 months. And usually babies are walking by the time they are one. Polly frowned at Denise. Polly frowned at her. Denise, why do you torment yourself with thoughts like that? Denise frowned and turned to Tom. I'm right, though, aren't I? Tom, yes, love. He smiled sweetly at her. Chicken. Polly teased Tom. The bell was rung to signal that it was time to take their place for dinner, and the crowds began to swarm in. Polly took her seat and placed her new handbag down on the chair beside her to reserve it for Sharon. Helen wandered over and pulled out the chair to sit down. Sorry, Helen, but Sharon asked me to save this seat for her. Polly explained politely. Helen waved her hand dismissively. Oh, Sharon won't mind, she said, plonking herself down on the chair and squashing Polly's handbag. Sharon made her way over to the table and stuck out her bottom lip in disappointment. Polly apologized and motioned over to Helen as her excuse. Sharon rolled her eyes and stuck her fingers in her mouth, pretending to gag. Polly giggled. Well, you're in high spirits, Jamie announced to Holly, sounding very unimpressed. Is there any reason why I shouldn't be? Holly replied tartly. What the is wrong with all these people? Jamie replied with some smart retort that a few people laughed at because he was so funny, and Holly ignored him. She didn't find him funny anymore, though she and Jerry had always been amongst those people who had hung on his every word. Now he was just being stupid. Are you okay? Daniel asked quietly from beside her. Yes, I'm fine, thank you, she replied, taking a sip of wine. Oh, you don't have to give me that bullshit answer, Holly. It's me. He laughed. Holly smiled and groaned. People are being very nice and all, but by offering their sympathies, but I feel like I'm back at his funeral, having to pretend to be all strong and superwoman like, even though all some of them want is for me to be devastated because it's so awful. She mimicked Jennifer and rolled her eyes. And then there's the people who don't know about Jerry, and this is so not the place to have to tell them. Daniel listened to her patiently. He nodded when she finally stopped talking. I understand what you're saying. When Laura and I broke up, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. I felt that for months, everywhere I went, I was always having to tell people that we broke up. But the good thing is that eventually word goes around, so you can stop having those awkward conversations with people all the time. Any word on Laura, by the way? Holly asked. She enjoyed having bitching sessions about Laura, even though she had never met her. She loved to hear stories about her from Daniel, and then the two of them would spend the evening talking about how much they hated her. It passed the time, and right now Holly really needed something to avoid having to talk to Helen. Daniel's eyes lit up. Yes, actually, I do have a bit of gossip about her. Ooh, good. I love a bit gossip, Holly said, rubbing her hands together with delight. Well, a friend of mine named Charlie, who works as a barman in Laura's dad's hotel, told me that her fiance, you know what happened? It was Denise's hen party, right? Told me that her fiance tried to come on to some other woman, who was a guest there, and Laura caught him, so they split up. He laughed evilly with a twinkle in his eye. He was delighted to hear of her heartbreak. Holy froze, because that story sounded rather familiar. Eh, Daniel, what hotel does your father own? Oh, the Galway Inn. It's a real kip of a place, but it's in a nice area across the road from the beach. Oh, Polly didn't know what to say, and her eyes widened. I know, Daniel laughed. It's brilliant, isn't it? I can tell you, if I ever met a woman who split them up, I would buy her the most expensive bottle of champagne. Holly smiled weakly. Would you now? Holly stared at Daniel, curiously interested to know why on earth he had once been interested in Laura. Holly would have bet all her money against those two ever being together. She didn't seem his type, whatever his type was. Daniel was so easygoing and friendly, and Laura was a bitch. Holly couldn't think of any other word to describe her. Um, Daniel, Holly nervously tucked her hair behind her ears, preparing herself to question him on his choice of women. He smiled, and her eyes still twinkling from the and at her eyes still twinkling from the news of his ex-girlfriend and ex-best friend's breakup. Yes, Cody. Yeah, and like he was also best friends with a prick. I'm questioning this man now a lot. Well, I'm just wondering. Laura seems to sound like a bit of a bitch, to be honest. She bit her lip and studied his face to see as if he had as if she had insulted him. His face was blank as he stared at her at the candlesticks in the center of the table and listened. Well, she continued, feeling she had to tiptoe carefully around the subject, knowing how badly Laura had broken Daniel's heart. But my question is really, whatever did you see in her? How could you two ever have been in love? You're so different. At least you sound like you're so different. She backpedaled fast, remembering she wasn't ever supposed to have met Laura. Daniel was silent for a moment, and Bodhi feared she had stepped in the wrong territory. He dragged his eyes away from the flame dancing around on the sand to face Bodhi. His lips broke into a sad smile. Laura isn't really a bitch, Bodhi. Well, for leaving me for my best friend, she is. But as a person, when we were together, she was never a bitch. Dramatic, yes. A bitch, no. He smiled and turned to face Holly properly. You see, I loved the drama of our relationship. I found it exciting. She enthralled me. His face became animated as he explained their relationship, and his speech quickened with the excitement of the memory of his lost love. I loved waking up in the morning and wondering what kind of mood she would be in that day. This man sounds addicted to toxicity. I loved our fights. I loved the passion of them, and yeah, addicted to toxicity. And I loved how we would make love after them. Looks पे डुलने वाले लोग. His eyes sparkled. She would make a song and dance about most things, but I suppose that's what I found different and attractive about her. I used to always tell myself that as long as she kept making a fuss about our own relationship, then I knew she cared. If she hadn't, then it wouldn't have been worth it, really. I loved the drama, he repeated, believing himself even more this time. Our temperaments contrasted, but we made a good team. You know what they say about opposites attracting? He looked into the face of his new friend and saw her concern. She didn't treat me badly, Holly. She wasn't a bitch in that way. Smiled to himself. She was just dramatic. Holly finished for him. Finally understanding, he nodded. Although she did cheat on him, Holly thought angrily, but decided not to say it loud. Holly watched his face as he became lost in another memory. She supposed it was possible for anybody to love anybody. That was the great thing about love. It came in all different sizes, shapes, and temperaments. You miss her, Holly said gently, putting her hand on his arm. Daniel snapped out of his daydream and stared deeply into Holly's eyes. A shiver went down her spine, and she felt the hairs on her arm stand up. She snorted loudly and twisted back. He snorted loudly and twisted back round in his chair. Wrong again, Holy Kennedy, he said, and frowned as though she had said the most bizarre thing ever. Completely and utterly wrong. He picked up his knife and fork and began to eat his salmon starter. Holy gulped back down some cool water and turned her attention to the plate that was being set before her. After dinner and a few bottles of wine, Helen stumbled over to Holly, who had escaped over to Sharon and Denise's side of the table. She gave her a big hug and tearily apologized for not keeping in touch. That's okay, Helen. Sharon, Denise, and John have been very supportive friends, so I wasn't alone. Oh, but I feel so awful, Helen slurred. Don't, Polly said, anxious to continue her enjoyable conversation with the girls. But Helen insisted on talking about the good old times when Jerry was alive and everything was rosy. She talked about all the times that she and Jerry shared together, which were memories that Holly wasn't practically interested in. Eventually, Holly had had enough of Helen's tearful whining and realized that all her friends were having fun at the dance floor. Helen, please stop, Holly interrupted. I don't know why you feel you have to discuss this with me tonight when I'm trying to enjoy myself. But you obviously feel guilty for not keeping in touch with me. To be honest, I think if I hadn't come to this ball tonight, I still wouldn't have heard from you another 10 months or more. And that's not the kind of friend I need in my life. So please stop crying on my shoulder and let me enjoy myself. Queen was needed to be said. Fucking bitch. Polly felt that she had phrased it reasonably, but Helen looked like she had been slapped in the face. Well done. You deserve it, babe. You know. You know you had it coming. A small dose of what Holly had felt like for the past year. Yes, exactly. Daniel appeared out of nowhere, took Holly by her hand, and led her to the dance floor to join all her friends. As soon as they reached the floor, the song ended and Eric Clapton's Wonderful Tonight began. The dance floor began to empty out, bar a few couples, and Holly was left facing Daniel. She gulped. She hadn't planned on this. She had ever only danced with Jerry to this song. Daniel placed his hand lightly on her waist and gently took her hand and they began to circle around. Holly was stiff. Dancing with another man felt so wrong. A tingle went down her spine and she shuddered. Daniel must have thought she was cold because he pulled her closer as if to keep her warm. She was led round the floor in a trance until the song ended and she made the excuse for having to go to the toilet. She locked herself in the cubicle and leaned against the door, taking deep breaths. She had been doing so well up until now. Even with everyone asking her about Jerry, she had remained calm. But the dance had shaken her. Perhaps it was time to go home, while the going was still good. She was about to unlock the door when she heard a voice outside say her name, and she froze and listened to the woman chatting outside. Did you see Holly Kennedy dancing with that man tonight? A voice asked, the unmistakable whine of Jennifer. I know, another voice spoke with a tone of disgust. And her husband not yet cold in his grave. Ah, leave her alone, another woman said lightheartedly. They could be just friends. Thank you, Holly thought. But I doubt it, she continued, and the woman giggled. Did you s- These kinds are the worst pictures ever. Did you see the way they were wrapped around each other? Like they know better and they still choose to go the other way. They are like pure evil people like this. Did you see the way they were wrapped around each other? I don't dance with any of my friends like that, Jennifer said. That's disgraceful, and the other woman said. Imagine fronting your new man in a place you used to come to with your husband in front of all his friends. It's disgusting. All his friends. It's not. The woman tutted, and a toilet flashed in the cubicle beside Holly. She stood frozen in her position, shocked by what she was hearing and embarrassed. They were saying it where others could hear. The toilet door opened beside her. The, the woman is going to be showered because she's practically spending the whole night in the washroom. Toilet. Okay. Uh, the toilet door opened beside her, and the women were silenced. Would you bickering old bitches over ever go and get yourself lives? I'll say this line better again, One more time. Would you bickering old bitches ever go and get yourselves lives? Sharon's voice yelled. It is absolutely no business of yours what my best friend does or does not do. Jennifer, if your life was so bloody perfect, then what are you doing sneaking around with Pauline's husband? Holy heard someone gasp. Probably Pauline. She covered her mouth to stop herself laughing. Right. So keep your noses in your business and piss off the lot of you. Sharon yelled. Serves you right, Jennifer. Then Holly had heard everyone leave. She unlocked the door and stepped outside. Sharon looked up from the sink in shock. Thanks, Sharon. Oh, Holly, I'm sorry you had to hear that, she said, giving her a friend a hug. It doesn't matter. I couldn't give a crap what they think, Holly said bravely. But I can't believe Jennifer is having an affair with Polly's husband, Sharon shrugged. She's not, but I'll give them. She's not, but it'll give them something to bitch about for the next few months, the girls chuckled. I reckon I'll go home now, though, Cody said, glancing over at her watch, thinking about the final message from Jerry. Her heart sank. Good idea, Sharon agreed. I didn't realize how shit this ball was when you were sober. Coley smiled. Anyway, you were great here tonight. Coley, you came and you conquered. Now go home and open Jerry's message. Ring me and let me know what it says. She hugged her friend again. It's the last one, Coley said sadly. I know, so enjoy it. Sharon smiled. Memories last a lifetime. Remember that. Holly made her way back to the table to say goodbye to everyone, and Daniel stood up to go with her. You're not leaving me here on my own, he laughed. We can share a cab. Holly slightly irritated when Daniel hopped out. Slightly irritated when Why does he always follow her when she has to open Jerry's messages? Of the taxi and followed her home. It was quarter to 12, which gave her 15 minutes. With luck, he would have drunk his tea and gone by then. She had even called another taxi to arrive at her house in almost an hour, in a half an hour, just to let him know she couldn't stay too long. He couldn't stay so too long. Ah, so this is the famous envelope, Daniel said, picking it up from the table. Polly's eyes widened. She felt protective over that envelope and wasn't happy with him touching it. Yes, he didn't know Jerry. He shouldn't touch that envelope. Removing Jerry's touch from it. I hadn't thought of it. Yeah, oh. December, he said, reading the outside and running his fingers along the letter. Polly wanted to tell him to put it down, but didn't want to sound psychotic. Eventually, he placed it back on the table, and she breathed a sigh of relief and continued to fill the kettle. This is so real. How many more envelopes had left? Daniel asked, taking his overcoat off and walking over to join her in the kitchen counter. That's the last one. Holly's voice was husky, and she cleared her throat. So, what are you going to do after? What do you mean? She asked, feeling confused. Well, as far as I can see, that list is like your Bible, your Ten Commandments. What the list says goes, as far as your life is concerned. So, what will you do when there aren't any more? Holy looked up at his face to see if he was being smart, but his blue eyes twinkled kindly back at her. I'll just live my life, she replied, turning back and flicking the switch on the kettle. Will you be able to do that? He walked closer to her and she could smell his aftershave. It was a real danger smell. I suppose so, she replied, uncomfortable with his questions. Because you will have to make your own decisions then, he said softly. I know that, she replied defensively, avoiding eye contact with him. And do you think you'll be able to do that? Cody rubbed her face tiredly. Daniel, what's this about? He swallowed hard and adjusted his stance before her, trying to make himself comfortable. I'm asking you this because I'm going to say something to you now, and you're going to have to make your own decision. He looked her straight in the eye, and her heart beat wildly. There will be no list, no guidelines. You will just have to follow your own heart. Polly backed away from him a little. Feeling of dread pulled at her, and she hoped he wasn't going to say what she thought he was. Daniel, don't think that this is the right time to. We should talk about this. This is the perfect time, he said seriously. You already know what I'm going to say, Holly, and I know you already know how I feel about you. Holly's jaw dropped as she glanced at the clock. It was 12 o'clock. And it is the end of this chapter. We are at 459 pages. Oh, baby. 460 pages now. Chapter 47. We'll read it soon. Oh, only 4 chapters left. Oh, so excited as you can tell. See you soon. Bye bye.